Yeah, look, this urinalysis. Has anyone ever used any of these urinalysis test strips before? All right, they can be. Hang on. God, I'm a bit slack. Hang on, it's coming. Hang on. All right, yeah. So I'm gonna print this out as a PDF. Look, I'm just gonna. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just talk you through it just briefly. We're just gonna go through each one of the tests and just point out. This is something I'm probably going to start including with my testing. It can just help validate things a little bit more. It's just a little bit more information that can, maybe push it one way or the other. All right, and they're very cheap. You can buy them for about $20, I think. I think that's American, and you get about 100. So it's probably something I'm going to start sending out when I send out my kits. And it's a urine test, so it's not a saliva, it's a urine test. So what am I going to do? I'm going to just quickly take you through that, and then I'm just going to open up to any questions. And for you, Andy, because this is your first time, if you've got any questions whatsoever, just fire away. Sometimes it's a pretty quick session. Depends on what questions we've got. I think the other thing too, I mentioned, Andy, I might have mentioned it a little bit before with some of the others, is that next year, probably in about February, I'm going to be redoing the whole course. Okay, I want to move away from just one big video, and it's very hard to go back and find bits and pieces, and you have to forward and backwards and God knows what, trying to find the mark for the where you want to find stuff. So I was going to be starting a new course now. It's too late in the year now, so I'm going to start probably in about February. So what I'm going to suggest, what I have suggested before, is that everyone, because this is my first run through and it's a little bit all over the place. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. I think I've gone too deep in a lot of areas and whatnot, but what I want to do, I want to break that right down. So I'm going to be inviting all you guys to jump onto that. It's going to be more, not necessarily restricted to every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks or something like that. It's going to be internet based, and it's going to be far more interactive. So you'll be able to go in there, and there'll be short videos and there'll be short exams. There'll be a lot more practical information, so I think what I'll probably make, this week will probably be the last week I have the live sessions, because we're moving towards Christmas, and I think there's still a lot of people catching up, and I think it's easy to get a little bit lost when you have to go through these, a 2 hour long video. So hopefully, I know it's going to be so damn cool, and it's going to be, you go into a website and it'll be all there, all the links to the PDFs, any references, it's all going to be linked, it's all there, and everything broken down, and it's going to be a lot. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I need to make it. Well, the plan is I want to run a parallel. I don't know if it's going to be parallel or it will be other people that aren't necessarily practitioners, like my clients, who would like to go through. And so the first half of the course would be like basic stuff. We're really going in on a basic level, not going too deep. And then everyone can join in on that, and our clients can sort of track their progress, and they don't have to really understand the fine details. And then the second half would be moving more into the pracky stuff, and how to really practically implement or integrate this into your work. Real live examples of the processes and stuff like that the average Joe Blow doesn't want to necessarily know about. All right, so that's a sort of plan. If anybody has any ideas on what would be better to add or change, let me know. But I'm already aware that I've gone too deep. There's too much information. And we need to break that down and make it more practical. So yeah, for absolutely, Kay. I think it would be for you, it'd be like a marker of being able to. I thought I struggled a bit. Do I do just the practitioner, or do I do just you know, other people that aren't necessarily practitioners. I think I've tried to do too much without, you know, having that a lot of thought up front. You know, just went into it. But anyway, it's going to be starting in about February. I've got lots of people who want to do the course, and it's going to be brilliant. And I guess the other thing too is when you start doing that and you start putting it on the web, you start realizing how much work's involved, because I have to do redo the whole thing, and it's an enormous amount of work. So we'll you know, it's going to take a little bit longer. All right, look, I'm just going to quickly take you through this now. Like I said, I'll put the link on the PDF, because I'll add a PDF to the group file section. So this is a urinalysis test, and let's just move forward. So what have we got? What are we looking at here? And look, some of these things that we're looking at may or may not help us much. They're not all important. And all, you know, there's not everything in there that I'm really interested in. But we've got leukocytes, we've got the nitrates, and I'm going to go through each one of these in a minute. Urobilinogen, protein, pH. I mean, that's, you know, neither here or there, because we have the pH strips anyway. Bloods, specific gravity. Now, specific gravity is a big one. All right, because this can give us a really good indication if we have other markers, whether we're pushing too anabolic or we're pushing too catabolic. All right, sometimes it's a little bit hard to get your head around. Well, I don't know, you know, I'm not really sure whether specific gravity can really help with that. Okay, ketones, bilirubin. Again, bilirubin, another important, and the bilirubin and the urobilinogen is very important, because we're talking about gallbladder, we're talking about, you know, bile not moving and all this sort of stuff. And once again, it can be just a nice, you know, if you've done everything else and it comes up with some of these, you can go, okay, it's telling me a little bit more. All right, and it's I think on the pack it tells you how to do it. It's simple. You just put a bit of urine in a little cup, and you just basically just push the little strip down, and you take it out. And if you notice on the underneath each one of these headings that we've got like 120 seconds, 60 seconds, 60 seconds, 60 seconds. So this is a time that you need to wait before you read it. All right. So can everyone hear me still? Yeah, good. All right. So yeah, they're the time. So it's you know, you need to get a timer, and you just, you know, once you've done a couple, you'll be, you know, like you get 100 in a box. But I recommend you get it. All right, let's just go through. So we've got the leukocytes. I just talked to you about that just now. So just a little bit of blurb here. Like, not only can these measurements help you recognize which imbalance may be most severe, so it's sort of like, you know, if we're seeing an imbalance and we've got this on top, it sort of tells us once again that we are really quite confident that we're moving into that imbalance. And it really, you know, because sometimes it is a bit like, oh, I'm not really sure, and, you know, it can help to speed things up. It's not necessarily going to be an answer to everything, but it's going to, you know, just add a bit. All right, leukocyte. So leukocyte, I mean, when we're talking about leukocytes or nitrate, what we're basically talking about there is a urinary tract. You know, do we have a urinary tract infection? Bacteria in the bladder. All right, and that's something that a lot of people would be aware of anyway, but some people may not be, and, you know, it's just a nice thing to know. Really, it's not really that we don't really consider it too much with the imbalances that we're working. The urobilinogen, yeah. D-mannose. I think it's just D-mannose. I think it's mannose, M-A-N-O-S-E. I think it is D-mannose or something like that. That'll knock it out in 2 days. So, you know, and I guess at the end of the day, if you are seeing that, well, that still might put, you know, okay, if you're looking at everything else, it may be, you know, something that's good to know as far as looking at all the other stuff. Because, well, why do we have that? What's going on? Do we have a sugar problem? You know, like, you know, all this sort of stuff. What's going on? And it can help indicate that. All right, so the urobilinogen. So this is basically what. So this is basically the bilirubin. that's actually not come out the proper way. It's not come out through the gallbladder. It's actually gone back in and it's been eaten by the intestines and by bacteria. All right. So this urobilinogen is a really important one. All right, because this is talking about gallbladder, bile. You know, do we have that that pathway open? And for a lot of people that I work with, we do have a lot of issues with bile. And just as a reminder for those of you that can't remember, the bile, if we've got good bile flowing, we will usually have a saliva pH which is at least 6.4. All right. So anything below 6.4 is an indicator that bile isn't moving. Bile is very alkaline. All right, and this is where we get the alkalinity from the saliva. All right. So I see it all the time. And so it's an important one. If it comes up, you know, like, whoa, we've nailed it, and we've really got to push that gallbladder, because, you know, it all depends on what else is going on. And, you know, is it a really big gallbladder problem? Is it a dehydration problem more than anything else? And then for a lot of people that is the case. It's the long-term dehydration, and they tend to dry up. The gallbladder gets all cluggy, and it's not flowing very well. But it is a big one. It's one of the cell membranes, the anabolic, catabolic, electrolyte deficiency, and gallbladder issues are really the three main ones that I see all the time. Protein, once again, this is just a sign. If we see protein, well, what's going on? Are we breaking down our tissues? Are we catabolic? Do we have kidney issues? All right. Do we have any? Well, if we've got kidney issues, well, maybe we need to have a look at the conductivity to see if we've got high conductivity. Are the kidneys overwhelmed? This can be just another little bit of a bit of an indicator. Okay, so conductivity, is it high? You know, are we drinking enough water? Well, then what's going on? Do we need to start doing a little bit of work on the kidney, as opposed to, or focus a little bit more on the kidneys, as opposed to you know, just letting it work itself out. And of course, like I said, with the catabolic, if the person's breaking down more than building up, we're going to see a lot of protein as well. We shouldn't see that. All right, so it's a pretty good one for the catabolic. The pH, look, it's only used. You know, I'm not recommending these strips for the pH thing. It's only for the urine, and most of you are going to have the test strips anyway. But it's, you know, it can be handy just to you know, maybe if you want to correlate your test strips with this one to see if there's any variation. The blood, so we shouldn't really be seeing non-hemolyzed or hemolyzed blood. Shouldn't be seen in the urine. Once again, the kidney or bladder distress or trauma. All right, that's the go, because blood cells can't get through the kidneys, so it's got to be a kidney problem. All right, if we see this come up, and of course, if it's a monthly cycle, you may see a little bit more of that anyway. Specific gravity, right? This is a really good one. All right, this is something that I used to have a different tool for in the clinic. You know, it's quite an expensive tool, but this is simple. So what we're talking about here is just really measuring the specific gravity of the urine to understand how many sort of surface active circuits we have. So if we're doing a lot of breakdown, which is catabolic, it's going to be quite low. All right, so 1.011, and that the markers are on the strips. You can see on the pack. You've got a a graph to go by. That's a strong catabolic indication. All right. So if we have, if everything else is pointing towards catabolic, and you see lower than 1.011, that's it's almost a dead cert. And the opposite goes for the anabolic. All right, anything over 1.020 is an indication that person is anabolic. And when you see this stuff, it's just another thing you can say, okay, it's just another piece to the puzzle, or it could be another piece to the puzzle, or at least give you the confidence that what you're looking at is what you think you're looking at. It can give you that validation, which is quite nice, because otherwise there's no other way of getting it. All right. Ketones. What's this also? So this is when we talk ketones. We're talking about the fat metabolism. Are we burning carbs? Are we burning fats? Do we have a slow oxidizer imbalance? Do we have a bless you? Do we have a fast that's all right. Or do we have a fast oxidizer? So this can help. Just measure up against with the energy production. All right. Remember, fast oxidizer, burning a lot of carbs, won't be burning much fat. You're not going to see ketones. Someone burning a lot of ketones and a lot of fat. Well, we're going to see some ketones, and that may not be a bad thing, but once again, it may be something that we need to know about. All right, it may just be another confirmation that we need to really, get that balance right with that energy production. What's going on? Why isn't our body balancing this out? Why aren't we tapping into the carbs and also the fats at the right sort of ratios? All right, so ketones can be quite quite handy for that. All right. The bilirubin we talked about just now. So bilirubin is basically this is about bile. It should have gone through the biliary pathway. Okay. So it didn't go out. It didn't go out that pathway. It's gone out through the intestines. All right. So that's another strong sign that we've got a blockage going on. All right. And like I said, so many people do have gallbladder. Right? I see it all the time, and I think a lot of it's down to the fact that people are dehydrated. We live in a chronically dehydrated world, and I guess the other thing to remember when we see this, we say, well, what's happening with the liver? The liver must be backing up as well. The liver starts to get congested as well. So this is why whenever we know we've got a gallbladder issue, we're probably going to have a liver issue. It's very, very, it's all connected, but this is very closely connected. And when we have a gallbladder liver issue, we're going to have also a pancreas issue as well. All right, the pancreas and the gallbladder sort of work together a little bit. All right, so when one's out, the other one's going to be out. Okay, so sometimes when we say we might be seeing someone or yourself with sugar issues. Oh God, I've gone completely blank. What was I talking about then? I was talking about someone just walked past my little kid just walked past my window and put me off. Now what am I talking about here? But about burning the glucose. Oh yeah, because so when we struggle with the pancreas, we're probably going to struggle with sugar and being able to get the sugar out of the bloodstream. All right. So whenever we look at if we see sugar issues, we've got high glucose readings, we may be building some insulin resistance and stuff like that. We'll normally always see some trouble with the gallbladder and the liver. And you start cleaning out the gallbladder and getting it moving. You start cleaning out the liver, working on the liver. You'll start to see the pancreas work a lot better, and you have more control of the sugars. All right, because this is a big one, because sugar issues, and especially insulin resistance issues, are a big one for a lot of people. All right, we have a body of someone that's sick or not well, not where they should be, out of balance, and sugars, sugars come into play, and the sugars can really throw things. All right, they can really throw chemistry, and they do that for a number of reasons. Sugar will coat red blood cells. They make that sugar is not. There's no pH. People think sugar's acidic. It's not. All right, pure sugar is not. You can't get a reading on a pH meter. Okay, but when those sugars are high, and they're all over the place, so that we spike the insulin, we make the bloodstream more alkaline, but also the blood, we change the properties of the blood cells, so they start agglutinating, because it puts a cover over these cells, and it sort of disrupts the negative charge. It sort of puts a blank on it, and it also displaces oxygen in the bloodstream as well. All right, so the blood will pick up sugar before it picks up oxygen. So there's a whole range of things that then can throw everything off track, depending on what's going on. All right. So I'll just, emphasize that importance of managing sugar, managing especially the spiking. We don't want that spiking. And this is when people start, moving towards type 2 diabetes, when they've got an insulin resistance. They say, well, I don't eat much sugar. I only have one can of Coke in the morning, or I only have a bicky in the afternoon. But that may spike your insulin. And if it does that, we start building towards, it takes probably 12 years or so before you start moving into type 2 diabetes, where you've built up so much resistance. And that's directly linked to the liver. And then the liver's directly linked to the gallbladder. All right? So that can be a good one. Yep. No, I don't. Is that a drug or a? Yeah. Okay. No, no, I don't. Look, I mean, this insulin resistance. There's no question. It can be It can be. You know, most people that have insulin resistance problems also have a diet problem. All right, they're eating. They say, well, I don't eat. Like I said, it's not the amount of sugar. It's this is why starchy foods and some fruit and some veggies are very, very high in sugar. This is why we've got to be a bit careful, especially with starchy food. Oh, well, I don't eat sugar. I only have I have a roll or I have a sandwich in the morning. Well, that starch from that bread releases so quick into the bloodstream. It spikes it. When it spikes it, this is where we start running into energy problems as well, because it spikes the insulin. It spikes the glucose, and then the insulin will follow. And the insulin, as you start building up this resistance, you need more and more insulin. And as you get more and more insulin, and suddenly you get the glucose, you get enough, and it knocks it out of the bloodstream. Well, you'll have a come down. You'll have you'll have an energy drop. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is. Exactly, and then you have all the added on, issues because of that. Like I said, because of because of the agglutination. So you're agglutinating the bloods because they have no charge. They have no negative charge. They can't disperse. They can't keep separate. And even then, now you have blood cells that are full of glucose instead of full of oxygen. So you have low oxygen. So the energy can drop greatly. All right. I have no question. Now the reason why you have this energy drop is because what happens is the glucose will come down very, very quickly, but the insulin won't. All right, the insulin takes a long time to come down, and so while it comes down, until it comes down to a certain level, the body will not tap into fat. All right, well, for that, uh, absolutely. Look, I'm not a big fan of any type of diet. I mean, that can help some people. I mean, yeah. But put a carb burner on an Atkins diet, you're going to be in trouble because they can't burn fats. So you got to really qualify people for that. Not everyone can do it, um, and So it all depends. But I mean, changing diet and managing. One of the things I say to most clients is, look, if you can stop eating any starchy, well, don't eat as much starchy carbs in the first place if you can. But if you can stop after 3 p.m. and give that body the 18-hour gap, roughly, before you have breakfast again, you start to train. You start to reduce that load, and in time, because we don't want to put any pressure on the pancreas. It's already under pressure. It's already struggling, and we don't. And the other thing too with insulin, it's very alkaline. Um, And so with insulin, it can really start playing havoc with alkalinity. It can really start playing havoc with as your blood gets more alkaline, we start running into issues with things like vitamin D3. Vitamin D production. And people taking vitamin D3, which is also very alkaline, once your urine gets too alkaline, what will happen is the body goes, well, I'm way too alkaline, and the reason I'm alkaline is because I've got a lot of calcium in my blood. I'm actually going to stop producing vitamin D. All right, because what happens is your blood starts to thicken. It'll do that, and the more so if you've got that going on and you've got other alkalinity issues, it can really start to compound things. All right, because insulin also, and this comes from Dr. Kerry Reams, insulin is very alkaline, as well as vitamin D3 is very alkaline, but insulin is very, very alkaline, and it's very, very powerful. And it acts much stronger. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, no, because once again, you're starting to disrupt the blood. You're starting to restrict that pathway. You're starting to restrict the ability of blood cell, and not only that, the more alkaline you are, the slower energy will flow. All right, acid is fast. Acid is fast. Alkaline is slow. Alkaline is resistance to the speed of the acidity. This is why when we eat food, and our stomach releases the acidic chyme into the small intestines, it's the alkalinity, it's the shearing of the alkalinity meeting the acidity that really rips everything apart and breaks it down. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Well, if you eat a big meal and you're tired, if at the end of the day, if you eat any meal, and one of the judges, one of the ways to judge how your digestion's going, or whatever you're eating, and I'm not, once again, I don't care what people eat as long as it's working for them. But one thing you can do is after a meal, it's just be mindful of your energy levels, and if you're feeling tired, well, the chances are your liver, your gallbladder is struggling. You're not getting that clash of alkalinity with the acidity. Okay, this is the chemistry of digestion. All right, digestion truly happens in the small intestines. All right, it doesn't. I look at the stomach as sort of like almost like pre-digestion. It's like and I've mentioned this before. You put vinegar in a bowl and put some bicarb in there and see what happens. It just explodes. So it sizzles up, and it just a massive big fizzle. Well, that's what happens with digestion. This is why, and I'll just talk about it now because I should do. This is why so many people struggle with digestion and understanding the chemistry of digestion. It's all about the chemistry. It's all about the pH, and that's why the total body pH is 6.4, which, just as a reminder, that's two times your saliva, because saliva's more, it's more concrete. So we do 2 times saliva plus 1 times urine and divide that by 3. We need 6.4. We're looking for 6.4. All right. Now that doesn't mean, and that, but the one thing we need to remember is that number has to be, like, saliva needs to be above 6.4, and saliva needs to probably be around just a little bit below 6. Okay, so it's not just the 6.4. It's making sure that we have that gap between the saliva and the urine. All right, and that's because if we're digesting properly, well, we should have enough, acid waste coming through. This is why our pH of our urine should be between about 5.5 and 6. All right, none of this nonsense about urine having to be 7.4, and saliva being 7 or 7.4. Well, then, if that's the case, nothing's happening. There's what's going on. Are there any biological transactions going on? Are we creating any acids through digestion, which we will? We can't be. And this is why very close pHs, which are very close together, say like a 6.4 and a 6.4, well, the average is going to be 6.4, but the thing is, the saliva is too low and the urine is too high, and that's a very anabolic picture. All right, so sorry. Now, if they're inverted, this is an interesting, and I talk about this a lot, and I'll talk about it right now because it's an important thing. If you ever, quite often, what you'll find when you have people, especially when you're feeling, sometimes when you feel really weird, you feel a little bit anxious, you may have a little bit of nervous, sort of stress. You can feel it down the back of your head, the back of your spine. You may have a headache on the top of your head. You just feel a bit weird. You go and do your pHs. I can almost guarantee, for the majority of people, they will see that the urine is too high. All right, it may be inverted. Now, if it's inverted, all right, if we are inverted and we also have high conductivity, all right, a big load already on the system, the inversion puts much more stress on the system because we're basically going in reverse, the whole system. So this is why when I see, and Dr. Kerry Reams called this the stroke pattern. All right, it's only the stroke pattern as long if we've got high blood pressure at the same time. If you've got low blood pressure, it's not so important, but it's still telling you that the chemistry is wrong. It's around the wrong way. All right, we should be holding on. Saliva. Think about saliva. Saliva represents our tissues because saliva has a lot of lymph fluid in it. All right, the lymph fluid comes from our tissues. This is our tissues. It can give us an indication that the tissues, and we want them to be more alkaline. And they should be. This is what our body needs to hold on to. Whereas the urine, being filtered blood, should be more acidic because it's waste. Okay, so getting that 6.4, and I think next time I do the course, I'm going to really emphasize a lot more on this. It's a really important principle to understand that the more you are away from that 6.4, we start moving into that graph that I've posted many times, and I have in the lessons, which gives you an indication of the minerals that you start to restrict. You're restricted in picking up some minerals because you don't have the chemistry of digestion. Digestion isn't just let's get some digestive enzymes in, let's get some HCl in, and we just take some probiotics or something like that. It's the chemistry we've got wrong. We're not getting our minerals. We assimilate our minerals through electromagnetism. All right, the minerals don't suddenly just pop out of the the intestine stream into the blood. It just doesn't happen like that. It's attracted. All right, this is why like ionic minerals work so well, because they're charged, they're electrically charged, so that they get picked up much easier. All right, and they're optimally charged for the body to be able to assimilate, to assimilate. Okay, but if you don't have that 6.4 or very close to it, you start looking at the like that graph, that table I've printed, I've posted many times. You can start seeing the very first thing that you start lacking and getting is iodine. All right, because iodine is a very heavy element. Iron is a very heavy element, so your body will struggle to pick those minerals up. Then and they are in a very narrow band. I think iodine is something like maybe 6.3, 6.4 to 6.6. If you're out of that range, you're going to struggle for iodine. How many people have got iodine problems? All right, and we're taking all this iodine, we're doing this, we're doing that, and it does help. But do we have the chemistry to pick it up? Maybe we should be focusing on the chemistry. All right, and are we going to have iron problems? And then we come down, you come down to things like magnesium. Well, we've got a lot more room to play with because we've got a much more wider band. This comes from Kerry Reams and it comes from Dr. Revisi. Excuse me, Revisi. This work. All right, and I, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Look. Well, I mean, okay, if if you are if you are working with someone locally, like one on one, well, you're going to be looking at things like conductivity to start with. Do we have high conductivity? I mean, do we have a high load? A high that's going to be one of the big markers. But with the pH being inverted, yeah, you can P5P. All right, if all right, so the active form of B6 it's acidic. All right, so but the beauty of P5P, this is where it gets a little bit more clever. What we do, we don't just acidify. We could take phosphoric acid, we could take ascorbic acid, but they will affect both saliva and urine, whereas the P5P will only affect the urine. All right, so I would have some P5P, available. Just say, hey, pop one of these babies right now. Let's see if it. And some. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, no, not not in an emergency situation. I think that would be something where the professionals have to take over and do whatever they do, because I don't think it's something that we can. It's something to do. It's once again, it's really working with someone and saying, look, this is just one of the pieces of the puzzles that we need to push the chemistry back to where it needs to be. We need to have those pHs around the right way. When you do that, people are going to feel better, more often than not. But if you're on the floor and you're in an emergency, well, that's it's no, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not gonna hurt, but it really doesn't. That person is still going to have um, electrolyte issues. I mean, that person probably needs to drink some water to start with. But if we've got high uh, conductivity, well, we know we're going to have low zeta potential, and therefore we're going to have high agglutinated blood. All right. So if you were working with someone that was sort of like struggling a little bit there and then, like, well, look, I really need some help, please, blah blah blah. Um, you can do something like you can, if you don't have a microscope, the blood's going to be agglutinated because we've lost zeta potential, we've lost electrons, we've lost we've lost um, the negative charge. And so we're going to be agglutinated, so we know we're going to have agglutinated blood. Well, if now, this is where it gets interesting, because now what we're doing, we're slowing down the speed of the blood circulation, because we're agglutinated now. And then if we had high conductivity at the same time, what will happen is like if you try and put too much electricity through a narrow gap, what you're going to have? You're going to have a lot of heat. All right, you're going to have and so that person will probably be quite hot. Quite often when people are hot, it's because they're too alkaline. All right, it's because they're trying to push energy against resistance. All right, we're pushing. We're you know, so people are going to be quite hot. So one of the things I used to do in clinic, I used to have Nepronol there, and I would, for some clients, I'd be saying, look, just pop a couple of these, and by the time they finished the the consult, they start to feel better, and it's because you've deagglutinated their blood. You've added a lot of anionic surfactants with these with the Nepronol, and what it does, it helps to fix up that zeta potential, fix up that correct repulsion of these cells, so they negative and negative. Negative comes across negative. What's going to happen? It's going to push the other particle away. All right. So some of the high conductivity, that stuffs the whole thing up, and then we've got that glutamate. One other thing you can do. So Nepronol is something you can do straight away. Another thing is like potassium citrate is something you can do very well, because the citrate is an anionic surfactant. A citrate will instantly spread those blood cells apart. All right, and you can literally give people relief in minutes. All right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah, you can absolutely, you try that. You just got to remember what's going on with this. We got some blockage going on. Yeah, this person's going to have. I mean, there are more reasons than the fact that we've got agglutinated blood. But what do we got to do? We've got to get flow going again. How do we get that flow going again? Well, we've got to have a means of flow. We've got to have a conduit. We've got to have the fluid. We've got to have the water. And if that person's high in conductivity, the odds are they're not drinking enough water. That's the problem. They may have kidney problems as well. But we've got to have the flow. We've got to have we've got to have that flow, because we've got to move the red blood cells. But just being able to work on that conductivity, work on that zeta potential is everything. It's a big deal. It's a bigger deal. If you were to look at all this work that I do, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get digestive chemistry right, and I'm trying to get that zeta potential right, so that we've actually got the flow. Because we don't have that, doesn't matter what we do, we're going to have lack of flow, we're going to have lack of circulation, we're going to have lack of movements of nutrients into the cells, we're going to have lack of movement of toxins out of the cells, we're going to have lack of oxygen, we're going to feel down, we're going to feel depressed, we're going to have no energy, we're going to be lethargic. All right, and this is why some people can drink some soda water and feel better. That's one. If you think someone's too alkaline, they've got low breath rate, give them some soda water and see how they feel. Or maybe even some phosphoric acid drops in a bit of water, and they drink that, they can instantly feel better. Like it can be within less than a minute, because you're well, yeah, yeah. Well, of course, absolutely. We have, and I think this is what this work is more about. I mean, this work is really ideally, it's really aimed at prevention, more than anything else. But who's going to do prevention? Hardly anyone. And this is the problem. A lot of people don't. I mean, they just don't. They don't do things until something goes wrong. All right. Yeah. Oh, look, and Yeah, it is. Oh, there's no question, because look, one of the things. I mean, look, if you're working with a client and you can make them feel better within 10 minutes, they're going to love you forever, and they're going to not only love you forever, they're going to have all the confidence in the world that you know what you're talking about. All right. This is why when I work with a client, I say I expect to see results within 10 days. No matter what's going on, I want to see you moving in the right direction. Not everybody does that, gets there, but more often than not, if they don't, it's because they haven't done what I've asked them to do. And so that's, yeah. So it really lends itself to prevention. And in the future, I want to make this more a prevention as opposed to now you've got a problem. And just even on that, just remember, people live in a world that when we look in the mirror, we think that's who we are, and we're not. This is what is one. No, no, because you see, yeah, and now you have a mess, to fix. But once again, I'll emphasize that this work is about not fixing those problems, but enabling the body to do its job. All right, and zeta potential, flow, gallbladder, the ability to be able to work the cell membranes, and also to be able to get energy from fats, are two of the biggest. Getting digestive chemistry is really where it's at, right? What we're with this, if we have that, we have this foundation, we have this fundamental level of chemistry that can actually do something and start moving toward, and you get it right. This is why I get really quite full on with these pHs. It's really, really important. This is why we're running into an alkalinity epidemic, over alkalinity induced sickness epidemic. No question, it's coming. All right, because we're all being told that because our blood's 7.365, that's what our urine should be in our saliva, and it's so wrong. And you start to understand that when you start to understand just a little bit about these chemistry. All right, so when I'm doing all this testing, I'm really focusing in on those areas, but everything affects it. Low or high, electrolytes will affect agglutination. It will affect. It will affect the zeta potential. Cell membrane permeability. That'll affect it. Energy production will affect it. Everything's going to affect it. All right. Yeah. So it's just, once again, it's just having, and let that be your focus, not on the fatigue or this or that. The focus is on the key. Like I say, it's really focused on those two areas. And you got to do all the other bits and pieces as well, because they contribute. But the focus and the drive is to get those things moving. And this is why pHs, when you change people's pHs, you can change how they feel instantly sometimes, because you've just pushed things back to where they should be. You may not have fixed the problem by doing that, but you've at least give that person some relief, and it tells you something about, well, what's going on. Okay, it did work or it didn't work, it doesn't matter. It gives you some clues as to what's going on. All right, so I'm going to just quickly go through these other couple of things. So it's good to discuss that, because it's when there is a lot of stuff I talk about with this course. Of course, there's a load of stuff, and until you start actually doing it, you start either measuring clients or you're measuring your own, and it is a little bit hard to pick it up. But when you get through that, you start to realize there's only really a handful of things you're looking at and focusing on. All right, you've got to know the other stuff. You've got to understand zeta potential. You've got to understand total body pH. You've got to understand if the gallbladder's moving. You've got to understand if the cell membranes are working. But that's about it. All right, you start working those areas, and especially working on digestion. Those things will start improving. All right, just a quick other couple of things on the glucose. So, we shouldn't really be seeing glucose in the blood. It can be another indication of issues and whatnot. It can just be another marker. I mean, we do blood glucose levels anyway, and that sort of really gives us what we need. But this, this test has the glucose as well. Oh, that's it. Hang on, let's just go back. All right. Okay, so that's a 10. So I recommend you can buy it on Amazon. Well, you can probably buy it on. I don't know if you can buy it on iHerb, but I recommend get some. And like I said, you get 100 strips. Do it and start to. Like I said, it's just another thing you can say. Oh, look, I've got this going on, and oh, I've got that going on, and man, we're really ticking these boxes. And then you look at this test can be just another confirmation, another sort of more, a little bit more objective. The catabolic anabolic one was a big, yeah, and that is a big one, because the catabolic, this is a circadian rhythm. This is a rhythm of our life. All right, and if we, I mean, you can imagine if the sun didn't come up in the morning, or the moon didn't come up at night time, what would happen? It would be chaotic for the environment. All right, and the same with our cell membranes. If it didn't open, if they don't open in the morning and doesn't close off at night, it's chaotic. It's chaos for our body, and one of the big reasons for that is because of potassium and sodium issues, massively, and it pushes everything out. People, oh, I'm low in potassium, but well, maybe I've got an anabolic, I've got an anabolic imbalance, and our cells aren't releasing, the sodium stuck in the cells. Well, then maybe you're not low in, maybe you're not low in potassium. Maybe you've got an imbalance. And they say maybe sometimes when you're high in potassium, or I've got good potassium levels. Well, do you also have a catabolic imbalance? Maybe you do. Well, if you do, you're going to have high blood potassium. All right. So it's just just these little things you can you look, because when I'm working with people, I don't just look at these tests and go like, oh, well, it says that, so it must be this. The red box came up for this, so it must be that. We've got to, when I did my training in biomedics, they reinforced all through, just remember, this is a tool to help you think through, as opposed to a diagnostic tool that says, you hit enter and you look at the profile and that's what it is. Well, it's a start. It's a starting point. But what else is going on? We need to talk to the client. We need to ask some more questions, maybe that we didn't do with the questionnaire. And so all through that process, you're just looking for little ticks, and when you've done it, like I do it just automatically as I'm entering in the data, and I'm building that picture without even looking at anything. Because I see these common patterns, all right, and then you have common patterns for different groups of people. So everyone's different, but there are categories of people, all right, and you start to see a certain person with, say, certain pHs and maybe certain breath rates. Then you start to see common other imbalances that come along with it, and then so when you start seeing one or two markers, you go and you have a chat with them, you go, I've nailed it, and I'm confident that I've nailed it, that I'm very, very close to knowing what the hell's going on, because I'm looking at so many different things. I'm looking at as much data as I can. All right, and that's and getting back to my training, that's what they kept on reinforcing, is we were doing blood as well, but look at the blood, look at the numbers, look at the person. Look at the blood, look at the numbers, look at the person, as in ask questions, and just see if, make sure that we don't have incongruencies with what we're looking at. All right, and when you do that and you do this test, there's no incongruencies. I've rarely had incongruencies. It doesn't happen. All right, we nail it. I talk to the client, I nail it. All right, because there are only, you have these patterns. If you have, but you'll see that through experience. And I guess I just need to emphasize the importance, even if you're not doing this as a practitioner level, is to do as much testing as you can, because you're going to start learning stuff about what the hell is going on with your body. All right, and a lot of people, and I know a lot of the people that are doing the training haven't got into that yet. A lot of people, a lot of my clients, that I'm working with, they struggle a bit to start, getting into doing the measurements. Oh God, I've got to do my pHs again. But when after a while, once you start doing this, you're building up this profile, and you're building up even more evidence to say, well, okay, where's Christine's chemistry where is Christine's chemistry when she's feeling really good, and she's full of energy, and she has good mental clarity. She's very emotional, stable, confident, and there will be a chemistry matching that. All right, and the same as well. Where is the chemistry of Christine when she's got a headache, and she's feeling nervous, and she's got some anxiety, and she's got no energy, and she's got mind, foggy mind or whatever? Well, that chemistry will be different. All right, so I guess, and I never really emphasized the importance of this throughout the course. Even if you weren't learning much of what I'm teaching, if you start to record this stuff, you start to record, and especially when you start record your details, your pHs, your breath rates and whatnot, when you're feeling really good, and also when you're feeling really bad, you'll start to see the patterns. You'll start to work it out without any help, because you'll start going like, okay, every time I did that, you'll say, oh look, every time my pHs do this, this happens, and I feel like this. Well, then I think back, well, why did my pHs go like this? Oh, because I ate this or I ate that. And this is where you start building these connections. All right, and this is why when I first did this course, I said this course is really about thinking, how to think about the stuff, as opposed to looking at solid results and just relying on them. We have to think. We still have to think through this stuff. And as time goes on, and with my clients that I work, as time goes on and they start doing, they eventually get off their butt and do enough measuring, they love it, because they realize that they have control over they realize that they are controlling it. They just didn't realize it before because they couldn't see the markers, they didn't see the variations, they didn't see or every time I'm really feeling crap, my pHs are here, or my conductivity is here, whatever. All I've got to do is just push those back to where they should be, and I'm going to feel better. And that's how it works. All right. Now that might be a simple matter of using the P5P. I'll just quickly go back to that, because P5P, if it's inverted, all right, because you don't want to touch your saliva. Ascorbic acid can do if you want to bring both down a little bit, so both urine and saliva is high, because it'll move. And phosphoric acid drops are probably the best. All right, but they will drop both saliva and both the urine. So it all depends on where that saliva is sat. If you think you've got a bit of room to move, like ascorbic acid will probably do it on its own. All right, but the P5P, P5P might do it even. It might work in any scenario anyway, but it especially works with the inverted numbers. All right, so that's like I said before. That's another hack. So it's really not. So doing it, practically getting involved with doing this testing, is where it's at. It empowers you. And even if you don't understand what you're looking at, if you do it enough, you will start building those relationships, and you'll start going, the penny will start dropping. All right, and you go like, yeah, and that's what this is about. It's not about trying to tell someone how to live their life. It's about trying to help them if they're not where they need to be. Well, then this is how we can push you back to where you need to be. All right, it really is as simple as that. And like I said, I think I've made things a little bit more complex than they should be, but everyone's going to be a little bit different how geeky they want to get with this stuff. Okay, so the more measuring you do, the more tools that you have to do the measuring, the more closer you can get to, what you need to, not only what you need to do, but how you need to prioritize on what you need to do. Okay, and I say this all the time. Knowing what to do isn't rocket science. although most people don't understand digestion anyway. But it's not rocket science. The sequence in which to do things is where it's at. All right. I think I've mentioned this before. You know, you can have a recipe to a cake, and you can have 10 people baking this cake, and you have 9 people that follow the recipe. One person does one thing out of sequence, and the cake turns out completely different. All right. And the same with us. We need to get the sequence right. There's no point working on the liver and gallbladder if we've got a congested colon. All right. So we've got to work backwards from the gut and make sure that we're not, nothing's gonna work if we have low electrolytes. We don't have the power switched on, which is why we have this hierarchy: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number one's the most important. You know, the most. How are we gonna give the body the energy it requires to heal us, as opposed to what it's doing right now is using all the energy in keeping us alive as opposed to healing. Remember, the body will always prioritize. Yeah, really. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean it. Yeah, yeah. Look, like I say to my clients, there's nothing more expensive than cheap. Nothing more expensive than cheap supplements. We have, and most supplements on the market. I would say 80% of what supplements on the market is just junk. Right? They just junk. I mean, one example is digestive enzymes that also has oxbile in it. They have no idea. They thought, well, we'll put it all in there because we need oxbile as part of digestion. So we'll whack it in with the same pill, and it looks good. But now what we're doing, we don't need um, the bile. We don't need bile until 2 hours after eating a meal. So why would you put it in with the digestive enzymes when we're actually trying to digest and acidify, and we're adding in a very alkaline um, ox bile, and we're pushing and pulling at the same times. You see a lot of that, uh, and I just they just don't care, do they? Obviously, they just it's. I mean, why do why would they put it in the first place? What I mean, for what reason? Yeah, yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah, 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 yeah. If we can make it taste as sweet as possible, um, make it nice to eat. We live in a world where people like do things. They take something. They say, "Well, I'm taking my multivitamin. It's like I'm doing my insurance. I'm all right. I'm at peace with myself because it's got this in it, it's got that in it, it's got this in it, it's got in it." And they make the assumption that just because they're taking it, they're getting it, and they're actually the body's actually getting it, and then so they'll move towards the fancy products and the fancy bottles, and the flash in the pan stuff. That's as opposed to doing the hardcore stuff. Doing black seed oil is not easy because it tastes like crap. So a lot of people won't do it. MSM is very. Well, that's right. I mean, MSM. Yes, yeah, it's part of the. Yeah, 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 yeah. The yeah. No, no, no. Yeah, 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 Okay. Yeah. 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 I mean, a lot of people that lack in digestion are going to lack in. I mean, it's an amino acid, so when we start, and 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 it's a feel good amino. This is why L-phenylalanine can make you feel better. It can be. Some people can use it for depression. Uh, L-phenylalanine will convert to tyrosine in the body as well. So tyrosine will also it will also make you can make you feel better. So when you know that makes you feel better, once again it's a sign that you're not breaking down those you're not you're not breaking down those proteins and unraveling them, remembering that HCl doesn't break them down. HCl actually unravels the protein molecules, and it's a pepsin that actually breaks them down into the amino acids and peptides and whatnot. All right, so yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's the same part. It's the same pathway. These are all good. These are all good, feel good aminos. Okay, this is all feel good stuff. All right, and so a lot of people. Well, L is natural, not the natural form. Yeah, yeah. And you'll find a lot of these will be L-glutamine, L this, L that. They're more the natural form as opposed to the D manufactured. I can't remember exactly what the D means, but you just get the L. Cool. Um, all right. So we've had a bit of a chat about that. I guess now we just open it up to any questions. Andy, how are you going, mate? What's you got any questions? Anybody got some questions? So this is where we just open up to any general stuff, anything you want to talk about. Yeah. No, no, you will always find pepsin. You'll not always find Look, pepsin can when you take. Once again, you don't. Pepsin is something that comes after the HCl, and some look. It doesn't. It's for some. It's not a big deal, but for some people, pepsin with HCl will give them tummy upsets. So I just in general say just get the HCl, betaine HCl without anything in it. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, 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 yeah. So we just got to be a little bit. So the HL you can do it with just a tiny bit of water, no problem. So and I guess while we're talking about that, um, you know, you know, is it any wonder we live in a severely we're living in a society of nutritional deprivation and digestive issues. And I mean, what happens? What happens when you go and sit down for a meal? I mean, we've been brought up this way. You go out and say you go out for a meal. What's the first thing that happens? Is the waiter comes along. Yeah. What would you like to? How would you like to ruin your digestion with this meal? Because you will, and it's bred into us that and Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, and no, yeah, and not understanding the long term effects of that, because short term it's no big deal. Long term it's like everything. No, yeah, 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 yeah. We don't question. We just go. Um, I won't have a drink. I won't drink beforehand for about half an hour, and I won't drink anything for about an hour afterwards. Like a very rare. I mean, sometimes I will drink wine, and that's just I take a hit. But it's once again, it's just one of these things that when a lot of people are working with digestion, they just don't talk about. They don't, and this is where I think there's a very strong lack of understanding out there, even in natural medicine, about digestion. We make this we make this assumption, that we're working. When we open the textbook, and the textbook says, yeah, well, the liver, and there's a bile duct, and there's the common bile duct, and then the pancreatic duct, and this is how this works. But we've got a body that's broken. Things aren't working. Yeah, yeah. Look, oh, look, it's amazing the feedback I get from clients. Some clients, you know, telling me about the response that practitioners, not practitioners, sorry, doctors, have come back with some of this stuff. And well, doctors are I mean, doctors, what do? They zone in on the problem. They zone in on the symptom, and that's all they're interested in. They're not interested in the underlying connections. They're not interesting that if you have a renal issue, maybe you've got electrolyte issue, or you might even have a cell membrane issue. They're not interested, so they don't see the connection. They just say, well, this is what the symptom is, and I'm going to fix that symptom, and I really don't care about the rest of the environment. And then, well, obviously that person then comes back 6 weeks later and will say, well, I feel better, but I've got something else going on now, and and that all gets back to the stress that you're putting on the liver. And I guess while we're talking about that, this is another thing that people, this is another obvious point, an obvious thing that we just don't think about, and that is the fact that, okay, what does our liver do? Our liver is designed to be able to pull out toxins, pull out crap that we shouldn't be in our bloodstream, and help clean it out. What is a drug? A drug is a toxin to the body. All right. So, how does the drug work? If the liver is taking those toxins out, well, it works because when you do take a dose of any medicine, it's very high, and it's high enough to overwhelm the liver. Otherwise, you wouldn't get any. Your liver would deal with it. So we start building up. It's not just taking a few pills or pills here or there. It's building up that toxicity in the liver, and everything is the liver. You work on the liver, you're going to work on health. All right, and those. So yeah, and even I guess when I talk about liver, then we're talking about the bloodstream. We're talking about liver dumping crap back into the bloodstream. We're talking about liver not dealing with toxins, how people having weight that they can't lose, because they're toxic, and the body will wrap those fat cells into those toxins into a fat cell, and they're stored away in the tissue, which is why a lot of people can't lose weight even though they eat nothing. It's because they're toxic. Extra weight is just basically you're toxic. You must be, because for some reason your body is holding on to that toxic. It won't release it. It won't release it into the bloodstream until the liver is caught up, and the liver is able to now deal with it, and the body says, right, now I will release this fat cell. Which is why when you get your chemistry right, for a lot of people the weight will just drop off, because now the body said, yeah, yeah. I mean, Yeah, look, there are so many things that you can do. You know, when I deal with protocols and stuff, there are so many things that you can recommend, and there are so many good things, and I can't cover all of those. And yeah, 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 yeah. Look, yeah, look. Anything that's going to work on the liver and gallbladder is going to work on your body. Once again, remember, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, very closely related. When we're stressed in one, we're going to be stressed in the other. If we're stressed in the pancreas, we're going to be stressed with sugar. We're going to have high sugar issues. We're going to have high insulin issues. We're causing this cascading array of issues. And then now we have a liver you know, blocking, agglutinated. Sorry, the liver that's congested, and then that's putting crap back in the bloodstream. This is one of the things you can't tell if you don't have a microscope. If you have a live blood microscope, you can get the live blood up and you can see straight away, is the bloodstream full of crap, or is it quite clear? You'll see straight away. All right. You can't tell that. Sometimes when you struggle with someone, especially when you got someone that's saying, you look at a profile, you go like, your blood pressure's coming in really good at 120, 121, 125. That looks damn good. But hang on, you've got fatigue, you've got cravings, you've got insomnia, you have depression, you have all this stuff going on. Well, we're not getting your minerals. So what's going on? Because the minerals in the bloodstream, it's reflected in your blood pressure. This is why low blood pressure is an indicator that your minerals are low. All right, so it's sort of like I said, when you're not don't have a microscope, you can't see that. But sometimes in that situation, you got to look at the numbers and go like, you know what? They're telling me one thing, but everything else is telling me something different. So what's going on? Where is this blood pressure coming from? And the chances are, it's the liver that's congested, and it's putting crap back into the system. The whole system is being congested. Blood pressure rises. So what you're actually doing is, instead of looking at 120 blood pressure, say systolic, and thinking, oh, well, that's okay, if you then go and help that person clean out all the junk, you will probably find they would have low blood pressure. All right? So this is why once again, we need to think about this stuff and just think about, understand these connections and go like, well, okay, well, yeah, that looks pretty good, but hey, everything's telling me that shouldn't be 120. Why is it 120? It's artificially high. Okay, so this is when you can sort of figure out a few things without having to see the live blood. The live blood helps, but it's not. We can do all this testing without even a microscope. Even the dry blood is fantastic to see, but it's not critical to have it. It's just like having a 10 urinalysis kit or a pH kit. It's another tool that can add some, well, a little bit more objective, I suppose, but visual a reflection of what's going on. So it just adds to that. But once again, we don't just look at the blood and go like, oh, I can see that, therefore it must be that. Does everything else match up? And are there any incongruencies? And you will see them pretty quick once you start doing the more and more testing. You'll start seeing, well, hang on, every time I see that, I see this, but I don't see that. What the hell's going on? Well, then we need to ask a question. We need to dig deeper. We might need to talk to the client. Might need to just dig a little bit deeper. Maybe the client isn't telling you everything. All right, I'll get a client come into the clinic, and I'll be saying like, first thing I'll say is, when did you last eat or whatever, and what did you eat? And they might not tell me the truth about what they ate, and I'll get the live blood up and I say, I know what you've eaten. I can see it in the blood. All right, look at all. You can't hide it from me. you can't hide it from me, because it's that is the beauty about having live blood. Live blood, the dry blood, the questionnaire, the self-testing. You've got the whole suite, but you can do You can do this work without a microscope. It just adds more value and it adds a little bit more fun. Andy, you had another question. Uh, well, look, okay. If I've done a lot of research on, I've found I found a there's a lot of cheap microscopes out there, Andy, and they're just crap. All right, so it's like you've got to spend a little bit of money. Um, but what I will post. I think I've talked to a few people about this. I think I might even mention it to Christine. I'm actually buying another. I'm going to buy another microscope. Yeah, I'm going to buy one shortly because I'm going to keep mine in Australia that Karen's looking after and stuff like that because I'm going to be doing some travelling with this work next year. So I'm going to buy one, and we're talking around about $5,000. Um, you can buy a. Yeah, that's everything. That's everything. That's it. This is biomedics. This is Steve. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look. If you can afford it, it's the most amazing tool to really, it's so good. So about $5,000. It used to be a lot more expensive. I mean, my setup is worth 20,000, but it's way overkill. I mean, it's Nikon. It's top of the range lab. Um, the objectives in it alone cost. Some of them cost like more than $1,000. The actual different magnifications. So that's what you can buy a microscope to do dry blood, a lot cheaper. All right, because with dry blood you only need low magnification. Dry blood maximum 10, ideally 2 magnification, 20, 100, or what I say 10, 20 magnification, that's 200. But the lower, and they're expensive, those, but overall you don't need the high power that you need when you're doing dark field, when you're looking at live blood. That's where the difference will be. So to look at a dry blood sample, yeah, you can probably pick up a microscope, like a little plain microscope for $300, and you'll see a fair bit. All right, but if so I will post this link uh, on our site that people can have a look at. This is what I recommended. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking around because it was just doing my head in. Because it was like $10,000, $15,000, and it was just too much for people to cope with. But $5,000, well, even if you're not doing this work, it's probably a little bit. It's a bit of extra money. It's a little bit too much, but you will never if you can afford to get one, even if you're not doing it, because you can look at other people's blood, you can look at your family's blood, you can look at your friends' blood and stuff like that. It gets everybody interested. You get everyone involved. If you have got any kids around, it's so good for the kids to get in there and start looking at. So even just for an educational tool and like a talking point, it's something that with a microscope. Yeah. 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 Yep. Yeah. Oh look. Yeah. Yeah. Oh look. You don't just need to do blood. I've started before I moved away. I started looking at saliva and urine. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. exactly. And some dentists will some of these more biological dentists will do. They'll take some plaque. They'll take a bit out, take a bit of plaque out, put it underneath the scrape. Yeah, that's quite. Yeah, yeah. And if you've got it, yeah, and if you've got a lot in your teeth where they shouldn't be, this can cause. This is where a lot of cardiovascular issues come from, because you're producing all this back, and you will see that in the live blood. You will see what they call rod bacteria. They look like a little rod dancing around, and when you see that, these fellows are very toxic, rod bacteria, and almost always they'll come through your through your mouth, and first question I will ask a client is, have you been to the dentist lately, or you've got any dental work that needs to happen, or that you've got something, you need to see a dentist, and you'll often find, yeah, well, I've just been to the dentist, or I've got to go to the dentist, I've got a few fillings or whatever they need, and you'll start seeing a lot of this bacteria. So once again, it's just another marker that when you see that, well, it's got to be addressed. You've got to put the emphasis onto the client. You got to get your teeth fixed up. You have to, because you're producing this toxic bacteria. I don't. Yeah, yeah. Now, yeah, yeah. Look, I haven't. I haven't explored. I've kept a very narrow range with what I've done. Like I said, I just started doing saliva and urine, and that fascinated me to hell. And I'm going like, holy cow, this is interesting. But the thing is, I don't really know how to interpret what I'm looking at that well, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see the bacteria and what's going on, and you know, oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's all interesting stuff, and I guess on to wrap up the microscope thing. Remember, with the microscope, we got to be a lot of live blood analysis and all that sort of stuff. It gets a bad rap because people use it for negative reasons. They use it to when you look at blood under the microscope, especially live blood. The first thing you do, and when we start getting microscopes, I'll probably do a microscopes course so you can learn this stuff. But the first thing you do is you look for the best blood you can find, and when you take a sample, the blood on the outer edges of the sample will start interacting with the oxygen. It will start oxidizing, so the cell membranes will start breaking down. You'll start getting these little look like bottle caps, little spiky things. The pH will start changing, so then you'll start to see things. The 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 the, the process of degeneration is chemically induced by the environment. So I guess for the when I'm talking about the microscope not being, I look at the microscope more as a powerful way to be able to educate the client, because they'll believe what they see, as opposed to telling them, well, these results are 6.9, this thing. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. But if you show them the blood, it can really help motivate them. But we just got to be a bit careful about saying, well, I see this and therefore it must be that. There are some variables, and like I said, the live blood analysis can get a bit of a bad rap, because people would say, for instance, someone will come in and they'll take a blood and they'll go to the outer edges and they'll show them the blood and they say, well, this is what it should look like, but look at this is terrible. And then they'll sell them a very expensive supplement or a whole range of supplements, and then they'll come back a few weeks later, they'll do their blood, and then they'll go to the good bit and show them the good bit, and then the client thinks, wow, Thank you. What a difference. All right. A lot of comparisons you see this quite a bit on the internet, where you see a before and after live analysis trying to promote a product or trying to promote even things like you know these meters, these automatic, these what do you call these meters? They're putting in people's houses. Um, uh, yeah. And how bad they are and stuff like that. I have no doubt that they're bad, but there's so much advertising going on. And as soon as I see these pictures, I know it's just a load of crap, absolute crap. They've gone and copied all these different photos. Yeah, look at it, because people think if they see the blood, well then if it's look at this comparison. Well, this is what their blood looked like, now, and then we took this product and in 10 minutes time, look at the difference. No, blood doesn't change like that. When a blood cell is corrupt or it's degenerated, you can't fix it up. It will stay there until it gets knocked out, taken out by the spleen. The body will get rid of it. You can't fix certain things up. And what they tend to do is they show comparisons which are just impossible to happen, and they're not even the same damn time they took the video. I see this all the time. I get quite mad about it because it does give, we have to be careful. It's not the answer, the be all to everything, but yeah, it's a wonderful tool. And you start getting that microscope out. You can look at little insects and stuff. You look at a little fly underneath a microscope under about 400 times magnification. It blows your mind. it's a yeah, 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 yeah. No, not with no, not with dry. You can look at it a year later, 2 years, 5 years later, it will stay the same. Once it's dry, once it's dry, once it's dry and it's in a cover, you put it in a if you left it out, well, it'll event. I don't know what will happen, but I look at well over time. But no, when you do a dry blood, it dries. It doesn't matter. It's the live is what's important. When you do live blood, you do it immediately, and as this is another good thing about live blood, because you can start understanding and learning, and I guess being more aware of how the body changes as the environment changes. So, like I said, we take the blood out of the body, we put it under the slide. We've changed already. We've changed the environment. The pH of the blood will start changing. The oxygen levels will start changing, and when that happens, this is when we see this pleomorphic activity. We're not adding anything to that. We're not adding anything to that slide. The slide's got a clover slip on it. Nothing's coming in, and yet if you watch it over a period of say 2 days, you will start to see life changes, and things start manifesting, and all of a sudden things start appearing, and you go, well, where the hell was that before? Well, it was just waiting for the environment to be ripe for it to say, well, now we're degenerating. The pH is changing. But this also happens in the body when we're alive. The pH is changing. We're changing the chemistry. Oxygen changes, we're changing the chemistry. And our body says, well, we're degenerating. We need to now start getting the bugs out, the bacteria. This happens, and you can just see these things happen. You see the process of degeneration, which is natural. All right? But the same thing, to a degree, happens within the body. So when we do, for instance, when we're looking at live blood, one of the things you can do is to look to see how long it takes for these blood cells to start breaking down. And if they break down pretty quick and they start, the membranes start to oxidize, so this is when you start losing the cell wall, the membrane of the red blood cell. You'll start seeing little indents and stuff like that. That's the lipids breaking down. They're oxidizing. Now that happens pretty quick. And you know, I don't know all the time. You know, it's different for you get it understand when you do it. You start to get a, you know, a relative idea. But when things start, so you can literally sort of almost get a ballpark figure on how quick that person is breaking down. This is a catabolic thing. How quick is that person degenerating? How strong is that person? How robust is that person? How's that person's managing with, you know, with the buffering systems? Because if they're not, when you put them on the screen, you put the blood up. Sometimes these bloods will start oxidizing in front of you, like we are watching them breaking down. And when that happens, we know, well, whatever's going on, it's happening. It's happening quite fast. You'll find that with people that are very weak and, you know, very quite sensitive to supplement. You know, they've been knocked around, low blood pressure, low electrolytes, probably a cell membrane. You'll see this. You'll start to see this stuff. So you're looking at the same processes that happen in the body, but it's just sped up, because now you've put the whole thing into an environment that's it's death. We don't have any new oxygen. The pH is changing, and that's when these things start manifesting, which is why when the pH changes in our body, we also start manifesting these things as well, because the body thinks, well, it's the pH is this, that's my time, I'll come out to play. Bacteria, you know, we got high pH, we got 2 alkalinity, we're not killing off the bacteria. What do the bacteria do? It must be time, so we'll flourish, because the environment dictates this to be so. This is what happens. We are just reacting. Our body's reacting. Exactly. It's just a natural reaction. But you get an appreciation. Yeah, but you get a really good appreciation when you work on that level, of actually seeing that process. And that's very, very powerful, to get that aha moment that, you know, like, look what's going on. This is why as a preventative tool, it's fantastic. I wish more doctors or people had a microscope, because you can see stuff that's happening at this micro level that may not manifest physically until 6 months down the track, but it's already happening. You know, that's another power, because you can see this stuff. We'll say, okay, well, you don't have cancer, or you don't have this, but look at this environment. It's ripe, and you know, so yeah, it's like I said, it's just another tool, more for remembering when all things done. A big part of this work is really to try and just get people to be motivated to get off their butt and realize they have to make some changes in their life, and in their lifestyle, and in their diet, and, you know, and their hydration, and they need to get digestion fixing. It's really, you know, there's a million books on how to fix digestion. It's not rocket science. The rocket science with all this is to get people to go, aha, holy cow, I can see and understand this now. Everything you say makes sense. And everybody that signs up with me, they all say the same. They say, I've been listening to what you're talking about for ages. It makes so much sense. It's got to be true. Well, of course it is. It's just logic. This is not rocket science. But I'm not talking in practitioner code. I'm not talking in, you know, I'm talking in plain English and logic that people can start understanding. You know, because it's we live in a very complex world now, and the complexity and the confusion and the frustration is designed for one thing, is to give fear to people so that they'll spend money. And, you know, natural medicine isn't a whole lot different. In a lot of the area now, it's driven by, and it's not one. It's just the industry tends to be just like allopathic medicine. It's you know, the driving force is money, not necessarily truly fixing you, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Well, the thing is, what is helping the body. Yeah, and it's really helping. What you're doing is you are helping when you start fixing up some of these things and some of these imbalances, some of these lacks. Like HCl is a big one, all right? HCl is right up there at the top of the list of one of the biggest problems we have, because it's our gatekeeper to the body, the crap that comes into our body. It keeps all the microbes, the bacteria, the parasites, God knows what out, intact. It's obviously for digestion. It affects the chemistry and everything. This is why so many people, and most people, have been eating processed foods, which means they've completely flogged their HCl production. It starts to get slack. They're not eating enzyme-rich foods. So yeah, it's the acid, the hydrochloric acid, lack of is a big one. And it's almost like if you're working with anyone over 35, 40 years old and they've got any sort of issue, you know you're going to need to give them HCl. That's be part of it, because they're starting to give the body what it needs, and when it starts to get what it needs, it starts to do what it should do. And if you're low in weight, then you should be able to start putting on weight. If you're too much weight, it will be part of the jigsaw puzzle to lose it. If your body natural weight is lower than what it is right now, if your body natural weight where it sort of settles out is a little bit heavier than some, well then that's just the way you are. That's okay. But sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing. One of the one of the biggest things with sickness and ill health and lack of flow is the lymphatic system, right, which is our garbage clean. It's our garbage cleaner. I see lymphatic stress very, very commonly. So it's congested lymphatics. And why is it congested? It's congested because of the protein molecules that have popped out of the bloodstream into the tissues, and this is what the lymphocytes, these are designed. They're the vacuum cleaners, and it's the protein molecules that hasn't been broken down too well. They've got into the tissues and they can't get out. What happens then? We start building up these tissues with lots of congested proteins. The lymphatic system is slack. It starts to get sluggish, and now we start building up these areas of high protein. Then we're not getting circulation. Now we start to create some acidity. We're starting to create an environment of lacking oxygen. And then what happens then? Well, tumor cells. Sorry? Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. This fermenting of. Yeah, I mean, people. Sorry. Okay. Why is that? Oh yeah. I mean, so that's just another degree. We work with what we can work with, all right. And there are some things that once it's broke, you're not going to fix as such. But what we can do is, like I get asked the question, well, can you fix this and this, and I've got this, and what about that? And I say, well, I don't know what the body can do, because you're asking me. I'm not the fixer. I'm not the healer. Not even you are. Your body is. But what I don't know. I don't know what the body's innate sort of capabilities. I don't know where there are some things that people have just gone too far that they're gonna struggle with. But still, and like I said, I don't care what's going on. It doesn't matter. We still have to make sure that we have these core fundamentals in place, and HCl is the is the big one. Sugar is the big one. Digestion is a big one. When those are in place, and you still have problems, you don't have to think. Well, you don't have to worry about all that, because you're gonna you need to look elsewhere. But without that foundation in place, it's like taking a broken down car, or a car that's spluttering and not working very well, and going to a different service station and putting a different, I'm putting Shell instead of BP, and maybe the car will work better now. Or maybe I'll go to another one. I'll try that. Or I'm going to try this. No, it's just the things we don't have the foundation. The engine's, the healing machine is not working well. Now, if we tune up that engine and we get it working well, we can take it to any fuel station and it's going to work good. It's not the fuel. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look, lymphatics are all about stimulation. Remember, we have two circulatory systems in our body. We have our blood, which is used pumped by the heart, and we're all aware of that. But we also have the lymphatics, but there's no pump. It's stimulation. So massages are good. I yeah, yeah, rebound is very good. One thing I might talk about, I've mentioned it a bit in the other group, and I haven't really um, got into it, but I want to. I've seen it. I've been made aware of it, and that's HCl therapy. And the HCl therapy, it was used very commonly in the 20s and 30s, and I don't know why it stopped. But there were people healing people. There are doctors healing people on nothing other than HCl therapy, which is basically taking diluted HCl throughout the day. There's a process. I've got the process. Maybe I'll bring it up as a topic with someone to start use. I haven't used it, so I don't really know enough about it. But I've researched it and I've read it. I like what I've seen, and I think it's something I will probably bring into my protocol when we do have a lot of people with congested. You can see that with your dry bloods, congested lymph. It's everything. So you fix it up, and then oh, you've got these boats going by.